Hello everyone, this is a new episode of Headliners, and today we are talking about legal stuff. We try to compare how the things goes in UAE compared to the US and maybe the rest of the world. Today I have a very special guest. This is Gordon Einstein. Sorry.
That was good.
Einstein.
If you want to say the American way, it's
Okay.
Einstein. If you want to say the German way, it's Einstein.
Einstein.
Both are correct.
Wow, I like this way. What is the main difference maybe between the US regulation and the rest of the world?
That's a big, heavy topic to start with. So the rest of the world, let me do Dubai at one end of the spectrum,
Sure.
and I'll do that as like a compare and contrast
it will be
maybe
great.
with Europe and with the US. I'm not saying I'm a superhero, but every superhero has an origin story.
Okay.
I'm going to start with my legal origin story because that will explain it a little bit.
Let's start because for me, I usually start from the big question and then go to the personal story and to the original story. But we do.
But it's related, actually.
For how many years do we do this legal stuff?
Since 1995.
Wow, it's like
30 years.
4 years since I was born.
Yeah, I know.
I get it.
I know. Everyone likes to say that. Don't ask me when I was born. I think that's when your dad was born.
I get it.
I've been around the block for a
So
while.
please.
I'll give you the headline answer and then we'll kind of dig in. So what was the case in the United States for a long time is that they did not regulate crypto directly except to sort of deny it or make it very difficult.
Okay.
Right. The United States ignored it for a long time. And then when they first kind of became aware of it, it was Bitcoin, and they were going with the usual story. It was for money laundering. It's for ransomware. It's for this. It's for that. It's evil, blah, 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 money, all this stuff. So they took a very negative view towards it. With their federal layer, there's different layers in the U.S. It's
Federal and local.
And local. So on the federal layer, they were unfriendly. And I'll go into the details of how. And then on the state layer, they're unfriendly, especially places like New York. They have their own, like something called a bit license. I even forget it because it's been so long. And so it's a very negative approach. And that's part of the reason why I left the U.S. because the regulation was just so bad. And I tried to change it for a while. I've been in this game for a long time.
So this is a great opportunity for every entrepreneur.
Yes.
Okay, get it.
I voted with my feet, they say. I voted with my feet and left the U.S. after trying to change it for a while. Recently, as the rest of the world has moved forward with crypto and blockchain and enabled it, especially here in Dubai, you're seeing a lot of political pressure in the US, a lot of economic and political pressure to make things better for crypto and blockchain because I'm using that word in quotes, don't want to be left behind. The challenge in the US is that, as we just touched on, you got the federal layer, you got the state layer, you got these different branches of government. You have a lot of inertia in the system.
And you need to agree with everyone.
You have to get a majority everywhere, and even getting that majority takes time, and there's trade-offs and everything else, and there's narrow interests that protect themselves. So when Trump came to office, there was a lot of positive feeling that things would change quickly. And I remember, of course, when Trump first got elected, it's like he's going to do this, he's going to do this, do this. It ended up.
He launched his own token.
He did, legally or not. But that was a good sign. And his wife did too, I think. We can talk about whether meme coins are
it's crazy.
Really embracing the spirit of crypto and blockchain. So, right, he started off with all this. And of course, Elon Musk's Doge department.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to talk about Elon, also the name of the coin.
It's super actual, according to the news of the last 2 days.
When my parents almost got divorced, they did not fight as hard as Trump and Elon. I feel like, it's best brothers who your friends and your family hurt you more than enemies or people you don't know. I feel like it's one of those vibes.
Did you see the news that they started to roll it back a few hours ago? So Musk deleted one of his tweets. About this
Epstein, not Einstein. Everyone does that. I am not related to Epstein. I'm not part of the Mossad.
So he already deleted this post.
Yeah,
and the Trump answered about that he do not play to return Tesla or to return a key. So it's great.
As everyone always says, the internet is forever.
Yeah.
If it's not true that Trump is on the list, that's potentially defamation. It's actually potentially legally bad. I think he's smart to delete that, but they're both outspoken people. I mean, you got two alphas going at each other. Trump is notorious for the verbal kill shot. Like he'll destroy people with words, and when he labels someone in a negative way, it sticks, and the person is like, trying to be an adult and gets lost. But Elon, as autistic as he is, he's kind of known for doing the verbal kill shot also.
So it was crazy fight.
I know you got two AIs battling each other. You got two ChatGPTs attacking each other. It's mildly amusing to watch, but as someone with a residual interest in the United States. And hope it recovers and does well. It's a little sad.
But from your perspective, it was a plan, or it's like uncommon situation?
I don't think it's a plan. I think that's very hopeful and it's an illusion. Everyone keeps on saying Trump plays 4-dimensional chess. Really? I mean, if this is 4-dimensional chess, I think you should stick with 2-dimensional.
Yeah, I know.
It's not so great. So, but circling back, and we can
move forward.
Let's go. So in the U.S., just to give you a little bit of background, we can maybe go into it some more. There was endless battles between our securities regulator, the SEC, and all these companies issuing tokens. And the SEC and the other regulators would not issue clear guidance on whether or not a token was a security or not a security, whether it's a commodity, a payment mechanism, a security, a utility token, some blend of all the rest. And the rest of the world, Switzerland, UAE, Dubai, other places, at least came up with some clear guidance. You could apply and ask, you could get an opinion, you could get a ruling and move forward. So for the longest time, the US would not issue these points. They wouldn't license you as this or that. They still don't. And the SEC under Gary Gensler, who's a fool, the chairman was, I think, in the pocket of the securities industry in the US, and it was the worst thing in the world. They wouldn't answer about whether or not something is a security. They would let people do their stuff, and then they would punish you. So they would let you walk yourself out into the middle of the ice-covered lake and then fall through, instead of warning you, hey, watch out about the lake. So it is just, I call it regulation by enforcement or regulation by punishment. It's kabuki theater, if you get the reference. And they would supposedly issue some guidance, but there's very useless guidance. When you get guidance on a topic, you don't need the obvious extremes. Okay, I know water is wet. I don't need someone to tell me water is wet. I need to know the edge case. Is this thing that pays a dividend, is that by definition security? Is it not? SEC would issue guidance, but it's useless guidance. If you issue a token for a bottle of Coca-Cola, it's not a security. Okay, I wasn't asking you that. I was asking if I set up a smart contract and have a smart contract powered by a token, is that a security? And they wouldn't answer the hard questions. They would pretend to answer the questions. And they would do meeting after meeting after meeting. And I've been in some of those meetings. Nod, take notes, go, thank you so much, waiting for your feedback, and the feedback never comes.
Really?
Yeah, it was terrible. And the FSA in England would kind of do the same thing. They'd invite people in for consultation meetings. They'd listen, they'd nod, you'd say, thank you, you have to be very nice to the regulators, thank you for your time, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for, meeting with the regulators, we appreciate it, and never get back to you. And then if they don't like you, they, come and get you later. You can contrast that with Dubai. And just for your viewers who aren't here, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, is interesting. I compared it to Switzerland. You have a thin federal layer, but you have the Emirates, individual Emirates are very strong, especially Abu Dhabi and Dubai. It's probably described better as a confederation.
Confederation.
Right.
Okay.
So the US is a federation or a federal government. Okay. Russia is a federal system. Okay. More or less. It depends on, Putin made the governors directly.
Here is confederation because every state, every emirate has his own rules.
To a certain degree.
They're united, but in general, they have their own rules.
Yes. Especially, there's a duopoly here between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. They're kind of like the twin sisters. The oil money and the political power is mostly in Abu Dhabi. But Dubai is no joke. Because it doesn't have oil, or because it ran out of oil, because there's very little oil, but because of the nature of the leadership here, they're trade-oriented and open in a way that Abu Dhabi doesn't have to be. Not that Abu Dhabi isn't, but doesn't have to be. So what's neat is you have the equivalent of a state, the Emirate of Dubai, creating its own regulator, something that would normally be on the federal layer. Okay, so in the US, we have the SEC. It's a federal commission, Securities and Exchange Commission. In France and Russia and these other places, you have federal layer or state, central government layer, depends how you want to call it. But here we have VARA, Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. And VARA is on the same level as the federal regulator. So Dubai is very forward-thinking. Not only are they helpful, but they made their own regulator specifically for virtual assets. So in the United States, when you're trying to get something cleared or understand something, you don't know what door to knock on. Okay, do you knock on the door to the SEC, the CFTC, which is the Commodities Futures Trading Commission? Do you knock on the door to the Treasury? Do you even knock on their doors at all? Do you knock on the door of the state government? Okay, and do you need to do it for every state that you're in? Because the internet is everywhere. Do you need to do it in all 50 states, plus Guam, plus Puerto Rico? What do you do? It's crazy. So Dubai, I think, is the only, I don't even want to say country, only locality in the world that made a dedicated regulator just for virtual assets that's on peer with the federal regulator. Because we have ESCA, the Emirates Securities and Commodities Authority. So they're twin powers. And if you get something approved by VARA, the local regulator, you get kind of a pass in some ways from ESCA, the federal regulator. So, what a contrast. It's right here in the World Trade Center. You can go there with an appointment, obviously. You can meet with them and you can talk to them and they'll work with you to get your application compliant. And if they don't understand anything, they won't nod and pretend they do. They'll actually ask you to explain it and go get other people's opinions and ask. and come back to you and say, okay, thank you for explaining to us. We had to do our homework. Here's what we think works, here's what we think don't, and they'll work with you to get your application through. So of course they don't let everyone through. Of course it costs money. Of course it's complicated. They don't want to stick out their neck too far because it's, there's risks involved like FTX and everything else, but they're issuing licenses. So everyone's coming here. I came here before VARA, but the attitude that created VARA was already present, and I saw it, which is part of why I left the US and came to Dubai. So it's great. I was just on another show and I was speaking with some lawyers from Malta. And Malta, of course, is in the EU. I love Malta. I was there several times. We thought Malta was going to become blockchain island. That's how they branded themselves. I don't know if you were there or remember this.
Maybe in 2017, 18.
Yes, 2017, good memory. 2017, 18, maybe 19, they were trying to do that. And Gibraltar was trying to do that also. Of course, Gibraltar came out of the EU because of Brexit. So Malta's branding attempt in 2017, as you said, through say called 2019, it was called themselves Blockchain Island. But they couldn't pull it off because the regulators just weren't sophisticated enough or big enough, which is understandable. It's a small island. And also the banks couldn't handle it. So Bank of Valletta and the rest of them, even though you could hypothetically get a license there, you couldn't get a bank account. It didn't work. I was just on a podcast, here we are in 2025, with people from Malta talking about, how they were claiming to be pioneers in this space. And now that MiCA, European regulations in effect, Malta is the best because, MiCA is based on this. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not right, because in the EU also, they're regulating because they have to regulate. They're regulating because they're under pressure, but they're doing it in a begrudging manner. They're trying to cause no harm first, but in a very conservative way. And so even though VARA's regulations kind of look in some ways like European regulations, they came to it from different angles. VARA came from, let's see what we can get done, and we'll restrict it as much as necessary to protect people. Europe came from, let's not do anything. Okay, we have to. And they ended up close. So it's like a zebra and a horse. They kind of sound the same, they kind of look the same, but they're not the same animal. And you find that when you get past the words on the page and you start talking to the regulators, you can see the attitude is completely different. So I was speaking with my Malta colleagues, who I love. Again, I like Malta. And I'm like, guys, I don't want to rain on your parade, but let's be real. You're talking this way because you love Malta and you want to support the business there, but the fundamental reality of talking to the regulators is different. Here, I can go into VARA. Okay, they're right there in World Trade Center, and people do. You can do it through yourself. It takes a lot of time, or there's a lot of people who work with them. It's not some weird monopoly, and you can talk to them and figure things out. EU is famous for its bureaucracy. And do you think that got any better with crypto and blockchain? Of course not. EU is a bureaucratic nightmare. Do you go to Brussels? Do you get a local license and passport it around? What do you do? And so it's so great here. That's my long-winded answer.
I like this. It's so great here. I like this idea.
Yeah.
So what do you think, how does all the things with regulation will affect the crypto in the long term, maybe in the midterm, in a year or two?
So there's different layers to this. The bandit or the pirate enemy did have some enjoyment of crypto when it was less regulated. Okay, it was kind of fun when, it was like no one knew what it was and you could do what you wanted and all this stuff. Of course, that was fun. Back in 2014, when I switched into this area long, we can talk about that. I both appreciated that side of it, and I also knew that would end. And there was always this push or question about, will crypto go mainstream? That's always the question. And then there was a question that people should have asked, and some people did, which is, should crypto go mainstream? Right? Because, will it is different from should it. Should it is a different question. If crypto is a tool of freedom and autonomy and privacy, should it go mainstream? What is the definition of mainstream? Well, I think it's a little bit in the eye of the beholder. You could say fully legal, fully regulated, fully subject to license. Okay, engaging in it is clear that if you do it the right way, you won't go to jail. Let me put it in a positive way. If it's regulated, part of regulation, regulation isn't criminal law. Okay, if something's a crime, you go to jail. When something's regulated, when it's done right, it says when you do it this way, not only do you not go to jail, but you can get a license. You can get additional privileges from doing it this way. For example, if you get your drug qualified in the US with the FDA, now you can sell your drug. Regulation, when done right, can enable things. They can protect consumers. They can protect the banking system or forever. Mainstream could be when you have banks or a securities firm able to hold crypto on behalf of their clients and engage in trading activity for that. Because when you do that, you open up to a whole bunch of people that aren't, everyone keeps on saying, when they're a certain age, you need to learn crypto, and if you don't, you're behind. Well, grandma is never going to learn crypto. Or if she does, she's the super grandma. But, there's ways mainstream is to make it broadly adopted in a societally accepted manner. Let's say, not a niche play. I recognize the romance and attraction of having markets where no one's watching and kind of doing your thing and, being that nomadic person. And I think there's a place for that. I don't want everything under control. I probably feel more sympathy for the romance of it than most lawyers. And we'll go into why. But if you really want the benefits of blockchain and crypto to be broadly available at scale, you have to make peace with the governments and regulators, at least for now. So that's what I mean.
Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? How do you come up with the crypto? When you decided that you want to run all this legal stuff in the crypto field, not in a traditional way, and what do you do before crypto?
I graduated in 95,
okay,
as I said. And so for the...
30 years ago.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh my God.
Son. Let's say until 2000, 2001-ish, I was doing law. Okay, I was doing business transactions, tax, transactional, all this other fun stuff. And then I was annoyed with law. I actually studied law so that I could go into business and manage lawyers correctly. It was a little bit of a defensive thing. And then in 2000, 2001, I started my own computer company. We did remote desktop for law firms. We did a hosted cloud-based. I did cloud before there was cloud. I would take servers, stick them in a data center, and enable remote desktop for law firms. So I combined my legal background. I actually became, I think, the only Microsoft certified attorney on the planet, as far as I know. I got my Microsoft certifications back when that was a thing. It was for 2003, probably before you were born. I know, you're terrible, right? And I started this company, and it actually became pretty successful. We were based in Los Angeles, and I decided to open up a stand at Legal Tech in New York. I opened up a stand at Legal Tech in New York. We fly out from Los Angeles. I bring in my people from Czech Republic, and I'm running our stand, and I hear Russian from the people right next to me at the next booth. And I've always liked the Russian language. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I've always liked it. I always liked the way, and I've always gotten along with people with a Slavic background, and they always seem to get along with me for whatever reason. The thing I keep on hearing is, you can't be American. I'm like, no, I am, but for some reason there's an affinity. So I always liked the language. So I walked over to this couple, and I said hi, and it turned out to be this couple that owns Distributed Lab, Pavel Korchenko and Lilia, they were together at the time. We became friends. They end up staying with me in Los Angeles at my place. We're at my loft in Los Angeles. They're staying with me. We're watching Sherlock, if you remember that TV show. No, of course not. All right, just believe me, there's a show called Sherlock.
Okay. Sherlock.
Sherlock.
It's about England.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I heard about it.
So I'm there with Paolo and Lily, and I'm making steak and pesto vegetables, and we're drinking lots of red wine. And they go, Gordon, have you ever been to Ukraine? And I go, no, I don't even have a passport. And they're like, you're a loser American. I'm like, I'll fix that. So they show me pictures of Odessa. And I'm like, okay, this I need to see. So I went and got a passport.
What's inspired you from that, Odessa?
Club of Pizza.
I get it.
Well, okay. I wasn't married. What do you want?
Okay, I get it.
They showed me pictures of Club of Pizza, but I like Sala. Okay. I like Borscht. Okay, I like Chornomor. I like Arcadia.
Okay.
Basically, they're like, you should come to Ukraine. You should come to Odessa. I'm like, okay. So I was like, plus I like the Russian language anyways, and everyone down there was speaking Russian. They're from Kharkov, so they were speaking Russian. So I went and got my passport, and I sent them a message. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to come to Ukraine. And they're like, you serious? I'm like, they're like, we've never had an American actually do what he says he's going to do. I'm like, you don't understand. Never in our life has an American actually done what he said he's going to do. And you actually went and got a passport, and you said you would? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, come over. I'm like, great. So I went to visit them in Odessa. This is 2014. You know what was going on then. And they're like, wait a second, no. Not only is he doing his first foreign trip in all these years not only did he get a passport, but his first foreign trip in all these years is into Ukraine. We need to make this nice for him. So I was in Odessa, and they started something called BIP, Blockchain Incredible Party, if you've heard of that, because I came to Odessa. So they brought 100 of their blockchain and crypto friends down to Odessa to make it fun for me, basically. So that's how BIP 01 started, because I came to Odessa, because they had stayed with me. They appreciated my hospitality, and now they want to reciprocate. So I'm there. I'm just enjoying what Odessa has to offer. And they're talking in Russian, blah 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 blah. And I was like, I need to make my Russian better. So I started listening. A lot of them spoke English, and they were explaining blockchain and crypto. And I was sitting there thinking, in between all the fun, I was like, I need to open my eyes. I need to open my eyes and open my ears. I need to listen to what this thing is. Because I'd heard Bitcoin. I was like, whatever. Didn't really think about it. And they were explaining it to me. I was like, let me think about this. Had a great time. Flew back to LA. I was like, let me go back. Okay, and I go back, and this time to Kyiv. Okay, and I meet with the programmers and all the people who are involved in crypto. And I'm like, you know what? I just realized something. My mind blew open. I didn't have the normal reaction of people like, the monetary system, decentralization, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't really thinking about that way. I was thinking everything I don't like about law, everything that made me stop practicing law, everything that annoyed me, like the arbitrariness or the inefficiency of it, or the fact you got the federal and the states and All that stuff, not all that stuff, but a huge amount of that stuff can be addressed by blockchain and crypto. The things I don't like about law can be fixed by blockchain and crypto. My undergraduate degree was in politics. I've always been involved in policy and regulation. And my dad was in the US Air Force and he worked at a think tank. Like my brain thinks policy and system and regulation. So I finally said, okay, the stuff I don't like is the stuff that can be partially fixed by blockchain. Can I take it one level deeper?
Let me ask you one question before. You mentioned that your guys from Ukraine told me that you have never ever seen an American who told yes and then moved there. I heard a lot about this. Why? Why you have this stereotype that American people sometimes do not do what they promise? I have my own vision about this. I think we have this amount of people who promise something and do not do. Everywhere, this is the same percentage of them. It doesn't matter. In the US, in Russia, in Ukraine, everywhere.
It's not the same percentage.
I think the same. Let me clarify.
Okay.
But because, let's say, in Russia, in Ukraine, it doesn't matter. I speak with 10 people. 10 of them promise me something and only one do. And only one really do what he really promised. And I think, okay, it works. But when I came to US, I do not have this 10 conversation. I have only 3. 3 people told me yes. And this is 0 from 3. This is no 0 from 10. The similar I can see here in the UAE. A lot of people promise something, but 1 of 10. 1 of 10 really.
You're lucky it's 1 out of 10.
How he's promised. Or you have different vision. From my perspective, this is a lack of communications in foreign countries.
I think that's very generous. Some cultures don't say no because they think it's impolite.
Yeah,
so in Japan, you don't hear no.
Yeah.
You just hear, of course, I'll sell you this coffee. It's just $1 million.
Also in the US, I heard that no, it's no, but yes, it doesn't mean something.
Well, in the US, we're more capable of saying no. We will say, let me see about it. Okay, and if you understand what they're... Sure, there's a lot of cultural nuance there.
Yeah.
My dad's side's from Germany, and I kind of got some of those genes. And those genes say, show up on time, as you noticed. Those genes, I'll tease you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just, I can't help it. I get anxiety if I'm late.
Sure, it's okay.
Okay. Do what you say you're going to do. Do it the way you said you're going to do it. Do it to the end. Do it on time. And if you can't do those things, talk to the person before it's late and let them know so you can kind of renegotiate the deadline. Because things happen. It's natural. But it's partly, I guess, genetics and partly my nature. But the U.S., I'm not saying they build a country. They do what they say they're going to do. People do what they say they're going to do, but I think
in a different way.
They're kind of loose with it. And the people who do what they say they're going to do are successful, and the ones who don't. And I think maybe Europeans are a little bit more serious about this than Americans. I'm not quite sure. But all I can say is that they told me this. Like they've talked to all these Americans, they've had all these conversations, and I'm the only one who actually does what he says he's going to do. And I really do it, like in a way that they felt a little bit shocked.
No, this is a very interesting culture difference. I get it. So.
And then, here in UAE, you got inshallah, you got all this, That's a little bit more cultural nuance. You just need to hear them better, I think. And I kind of tease my Arab or Muslim friends. I go, is it inshallah or is it yes? I'll say, look, for the rest of our friendship and relationship, I understand everything's in God's hands. I actually believe that. Everything is in God's hands. But within those parameters, you need to do your job. You can assume inshallah at every sentence, but I want to know from you whether it's a yes. And they get this shock. Yeah, and so
I like this.
Yeah. Do you want me to pay you on time, inshallah, or do you want me to pay you on time? Because I pay on time. I make a point of paying on time. Every single vendor, I don't make anyone wait. I always pay them on time because I want to hold them accountable. Like, I did what I said I was going to do. You need to do what you said you're going to do. And that's actually served me very well here. Do you want some guy who strings you along and gives you a story, or do you want to be treated the way I treat you? You need to treat me back that way. So make a choice. And some people can't do it, and some people can. What happens here is, of course, the longer they know you, the better inshallah works out. Okay, the more your interests are aligned, the more inshallah works out. Okay, the more you explain what you're doing and why, it works out. But it's never perfect, and you just kind of need to accept it.
Yeah, I agree with you, yeah.
We're sitting here, right? This is a city that...
One of the best cities in the world.
And it's here.
It's here.
It's not just a dream. It's not big talk.
Yeah.
They took a desert and they made...
Also this one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. Beautiful, right? They do get stuff done. And the leadership here... I think there's no inshallah with the leadership. They tell their people, you will get this done. You will go wireless. You will go digital, fully digital, no paper by this deadline. And they don't even need to say or else. It happens. We're going to have drone deliveries by this date, and it happens. It's not even a question what will happen to you if it doesn't happen. You will just do it because they have the cultural context and family ties and national ties to make that happen. We, as people who aren't from here, aren't necessarily Muslim and aren't ethnically here and weren't born here, don't have that kind of pull, and you just need to accept that. But you can control the factors of the relationship such that the likelihood of it happening increases. You accept it. You feel me?
I get it. I like this idea. Nothing to add here. It's great.
Nothing's perfect. Okay,
Nothing
I'm
perfect,
very clear on all these podcasts.
It's different, but I have never think about this from this point of view. Really.
You just control the factors.
Yeah, and you'll just like the culture difference, and here is you just need to make it until this date, and it's done on a leadership level. That's all.
They don't threaten. They made their desire known, and it happens, and it has happened consistently. This country became independent or formed, whatever you want to say, in 1972, after I was born. So, but, so I just had to throw that in there so we can.
Let's get back.
So
to the story.
I'll give you the origin story. So, to be honest, I had two realizations. I had, hey, if I go into this area of law, I'll be one of the first lawyers. Yay, opportunity. But that was like 10% of it. 90% of it was I can make the world better through the application of blockchain and crypto. And that's what I want to do with my life, because I've had this frustration, and this frustration is actually now finally getting solved, which is, again, we'll go to the fact I've been around for a while. Okay, when I was born in 1969, the idea was by the 1980s or by the 1990s, we'd be on Mars. Okay, the idea was that we'd have colonies on the moon and all this stuff, that we'd be living to 120, that we'd have robots, that we'd have flying cars, that we'd have, wearable computers, all this other stuff. And for the longest time, I'd say until the 2020, I've had the feeling that the future isn't arriving on time. Okay, because if you grew up when I grew up and you read all the science fiction, you read Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov and saw Space 1999 and Star Trek and all this stuff, you were expecting, the future was set on dates that came and passed. The first Blade Runner is set in 2019. Okay, 2019 is 6 years ago. Where's our flying cars? Where's our off-world colonies? Where's our replicants? Okay, where are those things? As time passed and I was expecting the future to arrive, the future didn't arrive. What happened? We got the internet. Okay, that was a big change. But most of the future, the buildings look the same. We didn't have the robots. We didn't have the AI. And the future arrived on screens. Oh, we have the internet. Oh, we have a phone. But the physical future didn't arrive. Okay, the future that looked different, that looked like how I imagined the future, the buildings still looked the same. Experience of life was mostly the same.
Also in the US, where all the cities were built in 16th, 17th, 18th.
And the new buildings weren't massively, I'm not expecting, everyone to be floating, but it's like the future wasn't arriving. And part of my philosophy is that there's inhibitions to human progress that slow us down, and often it's regulation. Okay, often it's law. There's a lot of things that slow us down. And the challenge is we as a humanity are on a tight timeline. Okay, we don't have forever. AI is coming, climate change is coming, the world is getting older, quickly, by the way. We don't have time to F around. I said, okay, we need to move fast. So what I saw was an ability to remove one of the structural impediments to human progress. I think, when you have a global currency, think about how inefficient it is to change money. You remember probably before the euro, going across these borders and having to change money, it's ridiculous.
I'm from Russia. I usually change money traveling around the world.
Yeah,
because the US, the dollarless, you can play dollar everywhere.
Generally, right?
But not Russian ruble.
No, so you need one currency space.
Yeah.
And Russia's physically large. So, you don't feel it as strongly as you do in Europe. It's ridiculous. I call it rent-seeking behavior. It doesn't add any value to change currency from one thing to another. How does it help to go from the British pound to the US dollar? It doesn't help anyone except for the people exchanging. It doesn't add any value. It doesn't create anything. It moves value around. It doesn't create any value, and it creates friction. So the idea of one universal currency is great. The idea of one universal blockchain or system that's as big as the internet is great. So I saw this as being fantastic. After I went to Kyiv, that was my second trip, I went back to the US. I went to my employees and said, guys, you have a choice. I'm doing the insane. I'm going back into the practice of law. And just be clear, for a lawyer to leave law and then go back into law is like a prisoner escaping from prison and then going back in because they missed the roommate and the food. It never happens. Okay, but I went back to the United States. I went to my employees and I said, look, I see the chance to change the world. You have a choice. If you try to stop me, I will burn down this business and you'll all be out of jobs because nothing's going to hold me back. Or you can take over running the business and I'll take care of you guys. And they said, okay, that's an easy choice. We'll take over the business and run it. So this company is still running in the United States. 2014, 15 forward, I went back into law. And I saw that the main issue that needed to get solved at that point was applying US securities law to tokens. because all these tokens that we're trying to get listed, if you remember, even now, need to get a letter from a lawyer saying it's not a security, here's why.
Yeah.
Most of those letters and most of those lawyers were junk. You read these things, they're terrible. They weren't a real analysis. They didn't understand the law. They pay them, like $5,000, $10,000, have no clue, and it's a problem. Because, as you saw with the US before, they were attacking Coinbase and saying you have to delist all these things because they're really securities. That's because they didn't do the proper analysis before. So I taught myself US securities law, which is the equivalent of teaching yourself brain surgery, and internalized it completely. And then I started teaching it around the world, teaching it to regulators and teaching it to crypto companies. So Ukrainian Bar Association, I was in the country of Georgia teaching it. I was in Germany teaching US securities law. I was in South America teaching it. I was all around the world teaching. And of course, that led to a lot of clients and a lot of business. You probably know the EOS token.
Sure. So I had an interview with the CEO.
With Brock Pierce here, right?
Yeah.
So Brock and a few other people launched it, but it was a community launch. So the community hired me to get it listed. I'm the one that got EOS listed.
I get it. But what happened right now? Because let's say 2 days ago, the Coinbase decided to list Fartcoin. Now the thing goes crazy. What exactly happened when Trump or SEC decided that meme coins are not assets or what?
I actually didn't read that yet, but the idea would be, are they or are they not securities? So a security is a fancy word for an investment contract. An investment contract is when I give someone else money and I'm not partners with them, I'm just giving them money, they're doing something with it, and my expectation is that it can give more back to me. There's a famous case called Howey, SEC versus Howey, and there's a 4-factor test about whether something is a security. Now, some things are by definition securities, stocks, bonds, whatever, and those factors all need to be true for something to be a security. Is there an investment in money and a common enterprise with the expectation of profit under the management of others? Okay, and each one of those tests has a whole bunch of cases about them. The proper analysis of that, the Howey question and all the related case law is what I was doing. So I went around the world getting things listed, teaching all these people how to do it. That led to a lot of business. And I forget where we're going from there, but that's what was happening.
Sorry, I just want to understand, what do you do right now on a daily basis? Because I understood that you have so much different background. You told me the story, how you started and how you come up to the blockchain, then how you decided to get back to the legal.
I want to give you the history version of it. Okay, because I think it's cool. So I was doing this till 2019 or 2020, this crypto and blockchain law. I got reasonably famous doing it.
What do you mean doing law?
So I was practicing law, helping crypto and blockchain companies form their companies, figure out whether or not their token was a security.
For more than 10 years already.
Yeah.
I'm asking you about the money. How much does it cost for the project to be fully
compliant from A to Z?
Yeah.
It depends on the project. For me, setting someone up $50,000, $75,000, maybe.
Okay, I get it.
To get the VARA license, that's separate.
Yeah.
Okay. It depends on the project, of course. If you're setting up something that's clearly an investment or an exchange, it's going to be more.
It depends.
If they're doing a meme coin, it's not that. But I'll tell you what's happened. So I was doing this, actively practicing this niche, if you like, from 2014 to say 2020. Then you remember COVID. I'm sure you remember COVID.
Sure. I was in the US. This was my first trip to the US.
I'm sorry.
It was interesting. I had a birthday 1st of March.
Okay.
And I landed in New York on the 1st of March. 10 days from this date, COVID happens. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, I was in Los Angeles and it was crazy also. So I'm there. I'm with my wife of the time, Russian lady, her son, my stepson. Okay. I think everything's fine, hunky-dory. Then COVID is getting worse and worse and worse. And like, honey, I think you need to get out of here with your son because I think it's going to get bad.
Okay.
So I had some vision. So I sent my wife at the time, her son, and her sister, who I was actually really good friends with, very nice lady. I sent them to Thailand to wait it out. I'm like, give it a couple months. And they're like, okay,
why not?
My busy husband will send me to Thailand to have a good time in a villa. It was supposed to be a 1-month trip, ended up being a 6-month trip. Just because you couldn't go anywhere. So I'm there stuck in our house with the 2 cats. This is also when Different Lives Matter was happening. So there was protests on the street and, people were getting angry and beaten up and all this other stuff. And it was just miserable. Then she comes back and I send her and son to Switzerland to be safe. Okay, and then things are getting worse and worse in the U.S. And the relationship kind of took a downward spiral. I'm telling more personal stuff. But, when you separate that long, it's not a good idea. But I'll leave out the gory details. She comes back from Switzerland. It's clear the marriage is over. I'm like, I thought the marriage was over. I was processing that. But while that was happening, a nice Russian lady, Juliet Su, maybe you know her?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, so Juliet Su changed my life. Okay, Juliet Su from New Tribe Capital, somehow, like a Vulcan, reached across the ocean, said, Gordon, I think you're in a bad spot. I'm like, okay, someone knows something, but I don't know what. But I guess I was sending out negative vibrations. She said, why don't you visit Dubai? I'm like, okay. So I go talk to my wife at the time. I go, a client's calling me to Dubai. I think I'm gonna go visit. Oh, can I come to Dubai? I'm like, nah, I don't think so. So I flew out here. The gyms were open. Crypto was happening. The girls were pretty, and nice. And there was no traffic. They fooled me on the last.
There was no traffic.
There was no traffic, right? They fooled me on that one because believe me, Dubai has traffic. So I fly back, that thing falls apart, domestic relationship. And then I'm like, okay, fine. So I came to Dubai on a tourist visa and I was already doing public speaking. By the way, one thing I want to cover in here is I used to have a speech impediment and terrible fear of speaking, but I got over that to speak and teach crypto.
I think this is a very great skill.
It's a superpower.
Some people compare public speaking to the death, something like this. The fear of public speaking compared to the fear of the death. So it's crazy.
I'd say death would have been a relief for me rather than the speaking in public. But I got over it through practice. I just kind of worked on my nerve and got it over. I came out here, and the first week I was out here, I was on stage. Because I just lucked out. I didn't quite luck out. People knew me a little bit because of, from Russia, from Ukraine, from everywhere. Because I'd been to St. Petersburg and Moscow and all these other places. I had some connections. I had my tribe. I had my, ex-Soviet tribe here. So very, very quickly, people being on stage. I was on stage emceeing events, moderating panels, and giving presentations on this stuff. So I had a very soft landing in Dubai because I had my reputation sort of before me. And then being on stage, as of course, you get recognized, and someone sees you do it once, they're like, oh, can you do it for me? And I didn't charge. I just volunteered the whole time. If I'm flying somewhere, maybe I charge, but I've never once charged to be on stage here. With Blockchain Life, don't charge them. Our friends, I just do it as a community service because I think it's important to give. And I also know psychologically or holistically that if I give to the universe over here, the universe will give back over here. It doesn't need to be the same person. I know if I pump it here, the universe, it equalizes out. Of course, I was doing blockchain and crypto, but I got so popular, I couldn't handle it all. So I started working with other lawyers also. What's happened, and this, I'm sure personally, it's very rare to find a pure blockchain project. Blockchain usually touches something else. Blockchain can usually touch land. It can touch pharmaceuticals. It can touch another topic. People are tokenizing diamonds. We're seeing this with real world assets. There's no such thing as just a pure blockchain project. I mean, I think that time's kind of gone unless you just happen to be doing a layer one. It's always related to something. So because of those somethings, I had to learn those areas of law. What happened is people began to bring me in more and more as like a strategic advisor, a legally minded strategic advisor. What's happened over time is it's been less day-to-day practice of law. You really don't want to pay me to draft a contract. You'll blow through your entire legal budget. But the good use of me is when you have a project that you need someone, dare I say, with a very solid reputation who can work with you to figure out the tokenomics, figure out the legalities, figure out the right doors to knock on, and make it happen. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm fielding those inquiries, seeing whether they make sense. If they need legal, I'm bringing the legal team and managing them. But I'm also kind of doing the whiteboard, figuring out what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And it's gone beyond blockchain and crypto. I'd say at this point, I'm more like a technology business attorney because, like I said, everything touches everything else, and I had to go broader.
How many projects are you in your funnel right now?
So I can't always talk about all of them, but I'm probably working on 10 or 15.
Oh my God, 10 or 15.
I'm not seeing their programming. A lot of advisors don't advise. They just accept money to end up on the deck. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this. They do it just to support the latest scam coin. Okay, I am not that. I diligence like crazy. So, and my word counts. So I'm careful about what I apply myself to. And some of that number I just said, they're already launched and they're doing well. Sometimes I'm often behind the scenes. I'm behind the scenes like I'm not on the deck, but I'm making it happen because I'm very careful with my name. If something is in the gray zone and they need to go in the white zone, I'll stay off until I get them into the white zone, and then I'll make my relationship more public. I have a great business partner, Mohammed Siam. He and I work on a lot of stuff together, and he's got his own local connections here. He has the local Emirati and Arab and Muslim sort of side to things. So he and I work on a lot of things together. The majority of it is blockchain and crypto, but it's a lot more now also, which is part of the reason why Tech Tuesdays is happening.
I will ask again, what exactly do you do for the projects?
Okay, I am working with the founders and with the team to form their strategic vision, not in a nice way, but in a very aggressive red teaming way. Would your audience know that expression? So in the U.S. Army, okay, back during the Cold War, you had the U.S. Army trying to fight the Warsaw Pact. Okay. The people they were training against were all other NATO people. Well, that's no good because you just are learning how to fight against yourself. You need to learn how to fight against the other guy. So there was a group of people within the military who would study Soviet doctrine and learn to fight that way. That was the red team.
I get it.
Okay, blue team, red team.
Yeah, sure, I get it.
Okay, I'm the red team guy. Okay, I'm the guy that goes in there and punches your model, beats things up, so that we identify every weakness and every flaw and make it much stronger and much better. So I'm the guy who takes his legal skills. I learned prompting before ChatGPT because I'm a lawyer. I know how to prompt. I know how to exactly form my sentences and my questions. I know how to listen for lies. I know how to listen for contradictions. I can tell when someone's not telling the whole story. I'm not a mind reader, but the truth is consistent and the truth doesn't have holes.
I like it. The truth is consistent. Very good.
It is.
Very good quote.
Right? When you listen, like you said, and you keep on listening and you keep on listening and you keep on rolling it over and then you talk to other people and you go back. I'm used to doing that. So I can take these half-baked ideas that people have where they have good people and maybe good backing, but they haven't really thought it through, and I can just beat the hell out of it and make it something much stronger. And then with my connections and network, make it happen. That's what I'm doing.
Can you make an example of the project? Maybe not the name, but the industry or the exact goals or tasks.
There's one that's close to my heart. I can't name the exact project,
we do not need it.
Raw diamonds are heavily regulated.
What?
Like raw, uncut diamonds. There's,
uncut raw diamonds. Okay,
right. There's cut diamonds when they're one way,
Sure.
but there's raw diamonds.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. There's a whole issue right now with conflict diamonds that are sourced from areas that are
great diamonds, let's say, from Africa.
Mostly from Africa.
Mostly from Africa. I get it.
Okay.
Like in a movie when they buy a weapon with diamonds. I get it.
Yeah, which is a real thing, by the way. So the Kimberley Protocol is something. The general rule is that you can't buy diamonds sourced from areas held by non-government forces. You can have evil government, but unless the government's under sanctions, those diamonds are fine. Okay, but if evil rebels own half the country, you can't sell those diamonds. How do you track that? Okay, there's a natural possible correlation between putting them on the blockchain and being able to track them. This is an example of tying the physical world to an asset in a way that matters. And so one project we've been working on right now is how to apply the Kimberley process to conflict diamonds using blockchain. And think about where this stuff is coming from. It's coming from, like, say, Central Africa. Okay, I've been to Central Africa. I had the UN troops pick us up and drive us to the presidential palace and kind of look at this stuff. It is not a nice place where you can hook up electronic equipment and, like, please do this. Everything is a little scary. That's one of the projects we're working on. And I think it's doable and we're making progress. You just need to have a very hard-nosed view of it. And I'll go where other people won't go. Maybe stupidly fearless. So I went there, I went to other places, I'm whatever. I don't want to say I get my hands dirty because I'm always acting ethically, but I get my eyes dirty. I see a lot.
How many hours per week do you work right now?
Well, I have a 4-month-old son, so that's a tricky question. Depends how you define work. 50, because I'm trying to be present for my son.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He's 4 months
But anyway,
old.
50, it's good. It's more than average, like a real entrepreneur.
Well, I'm an entrepreneur to the family also because I got married last year to my wonderful wife. By the way, you see, Dubai made everything for me. So wife and stepson.
Okay, sure.
Now
in Switzerland.
Huh?
Now in Switzerland.
Oh, I don't know. No, she's back in Los Angeles. The situation that made her not happy with me didn't work out for her. So now she's back in Los Angeles. Meanwhile, I got a new wife and a new son. So life is good.
I have one kid is 3 years. The second one is 6. I also try to be present and I have my own goals.
Yes.
Yeah, but now I try to be an example for them and try not to skip this because it's super easy to skip this time.
Yeah, you gotta watch out.
Because
do you know Andy Elliott?
What?
Do you know the?
Sure, Andy Elliott. Yeah, I get it.
Okay, so he was a guest at our last Tech Tuesdays. He spoke for half an hour.
He's based here.
Yeah,
in Dubai.
He's not based here, but he was here.
I get it.
So we had him on stage for half an hour.
He's a super motivational speaker.
Yeah, you don't have a choice, right? He was relaying the anecdote that he was making a lot of money. But his wife basically called him on his BS and said, look, congratulations on making all this money, but I didn't sign up for someone who makes a lot of money. I signed up you should make a lot of money. In fact, you should continue, but you need to be fit. You need to be a husband. You need to be a father to our children. You need to do it all and pull it together. And if you don't pull it all together, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's a big problem. Also, I have my own goals, etc. But now I'm all in but I do not want to skip my kids' childhood.
No, I don't either.
But that's my father told me, the work will never end. You will have new and new tasks every day. But the children, they will grow up so fast. So do not miss it.
My Joseph is growing up very fast, and I see it. And luckily I get to work from home, and my wife is there also. She doesn't have to work. So, I mean, she works, but she doesn't have a strict job, I should say. Let me be clear. She works a lot. So I get to be more present, I think, maybe than usual. I'm not going to an office every day, but it's a pleasure. And, hopefully we'll get a couple more. We'll see what happens.
How do you allocate your time? I mean, it's about internal fire and internal decisions.
I always do the thing that's the fastest, the most effective. There's that classic chart.
Yeah, I get it. I know.
Is it high impact or low impact?
Yeah.
There's all these factors. I know where we're heading. There's a strategic plan in place, and I have my list of things to do. I have my goals, long-term, medium, short-term. I have a document. I review that document in the morning. I just get myself centered. I'm like, okay, no heart attack allowed. I need to be a good dad, need to be a good husband, need to work on my German and my Russian. Here's my financial goals. Here's how I'm accomplishing it. Here's the ethics I'm keeping while I do it. And I pursue. I also allow for entropy or randomness. I make use of randomness. I make use of entropy. I take action so that random things occur, and then take advantage of them. And it doesn't throw me off. I expect it.
I get it. What do you like in Dubai the most?
That's a great question. I like the fact you can get other places quickly.
Not this year. Come on. It's hard. I know that it's not compared to the US, but this year the traffic is...
No. The traffic is hell.
They
need to fix that. What I meant was the airlines.
The airlines. Airlines, sure. This is the central part. You can fly wherever you want to.
Europe, the places I care about.
Yeah.
Europe and Central Asia, let's say, and the Middle East, are very accessible to me.
Yeah, sure.
So that part is great. There's so much I like about Dubai. I like that Dubai is very fast moving if you want to be fast moving.
Yeah, sure.
You can accomplish things here in a year that other places take 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
I'll take Switzerland, for example. Like I like the Swiss German mentality, some of it, but there's some places where if you're not born in that village, you'll never be inside.
Really?
Oh, sure. U.S. is the opposite. I'd say U.S. It's almost better if you're from somewhere else. I'm German also, and I got my citizenship a few years ago. But you'll never be from their village. You'll never have gone to school with them. You'll never be really inside. Now, some people can't handle that. I actually don't mind it so much. I know that there's other ways to accomplish what you need to accomplish. You can start your own company. You can start your own social groups. You can become popular in your own way, and then you're like the interesting outsider.
The popularity opens every door, because I think that people also with money, they know that to gain audience much more harder than to earn money.
Yeah, being popular helps.
That's open a lot of doors, yeah.
But if you do that in a hostile environment, it's even more work.
Yeah.
So, but like Dubai's opposite of hostile. They want you to succeed, and other people help you succeed. It's kind of good. You keep your nose clean with Emiratis. You don't mess with them, and you do what you need to do. So I like the fact you can move quickly here. The doors are open to a certain point. Now, if you want to get past that point and start working more with the locals or the structures, you need to really pay your dues. You need to be here for a while. You need to add value. I've been very fortunate with my partner. I've been very fortunate that I went through 3 background checks last 2 months, 3. And one of them was extremely deep. And I'm fortunate, think about it. Someone in crypto for the past 10 years has a clean background check. Okay, I really kept my nose clean. And now finally some of the upper level doors are opening. It's been 4 years. It's actually pretty fast. Sometimes you have to be here 10 years before that happens. So I like the fact that even, with the people who are from here, who have their own culture and their own language and their own religion, they'll let you in. You're never going to be them, but I don't need to be them. In fact, my value is that I'm not them. If I was them, we wouldn't get along.
Yeah.
What's the point of me? But to have this person with my different backgrounds and skills and whatever else contribute here, they're like, okay, we like you, we'll bring you in here. I'm like, that's all I need.
From your perspective, what's happening with the US right now?
It's got a huge, it's really sad. I mean, there's the micro issue of Trump and Elon having their lovers quarrel.
I think everyone will forget it in a week.
They'll forget it because they have ADHD and because worse things are going to happen. I think the Western world is on a downward path. It makes me very sad to see it. I don't want it to be this way. I'm not cheering for its fall like some people on YouTube. They're almost happy about it. They're black-pilled and happy. I'm not happy about it. I grew up in the US when it was cool, in the 80s. And I saw the Reagan times and I saw what was possible and everything else. I think it's on a downward spiral. Ideologically, demographically, the tolerance level, rule of law, everything. Europe is on that downward spiral also, clearly. I don't know if this is right for your topic. I'm very unhappy that Ukraine and Russia are fighting because I like both countries a lot, and I think I don't want those people dead. I think those people are great. I want them to live and have kids, and both of them are facing a demographic crisis. Ukraine has this demographic crisis. Russia has a demographic crisis. It's bad. The global north is having a real problem right now. No country in the global north has a very solid footing except for maybe Poland, okay, or maybe Switzerland. And they're great, but can they withstand what's coming? I'm not sure.
Oh, really? What's coming?
What's coming is you're going to have something like civil war in Western Europe because of the demographic changes.
And because of Africa, a lot of Africa people move to the
It's not a question of the ethnicities or the religion, because here I am in Dubai with all these different ethnicities and religions, and it's great. It's safe, it's great. You can walk down the street with your Rolex and your everything else, and you're fine. They crunch down very hard on any kind of discrimination and everything else. But if you look at the way immigration is being done in Western Europe, it's not being done the right way, clearly. The Emiratis themselves say this. There's a famous clip of a foreign minister saying, he switches to English because he's like, let me say this clearly. You guys think you understand Islam. You guys think you understand this. We understand it. You're doing it wrong. So you have these Muslim Brotherhood types, which is not the policy of this country, moving into Western Europe, affecting the politics and becoming demographically significant. And again, it's not an issue with the religion per se. I'm here and I'm happy being here in a Muslim country. But that formation of Islam, they're non-integratable and they don't want to integrate. And national cultures in Western Europe, ever since World War II, have lost their mojo and their strength for a variety of reasons. And so it's heading downwards. The problem is when you get large populations that don't work or on public support, or when the education system drops, or you have to pay more and more security, or when you have a Christmas festival in Germany and people are getting stabbed or run over, people clinch down and they hide. And I don't see any kind of reverse path. Poland's very smart for managing things. Russia's a good example of a country that's able to work with different denominations, whether it's Christian, Muslim, or Buddhist, and pull it together in a way that works. But Russia has tools and a society and structures that Western Europe doesn't have. It's more of a sustainable model when you have those different religions and everything else. The problem is it has a demographic crisis. So people need to have more kids.
I get it.
You feel me?
Yeah. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? My son, my wife.
Oh, it's a super clear answer. And it's nothing to add here. For me, it's super clear for me and familiar, because also when we're talking about the kids, the family, it's super excited.
My wife, Irina, is absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed what Dubai had to offer. But then when I met her, I said goodbye to all that. Pissed off about 20 individuals, and that's their problem.
Okay.
And, I did scorched earth. I'm like, done. And Irina and I have been, dated, got married, made a baby, hopefully more soon.
What is your vision for the future of the crypto market from the legal perspective? It will be fully regulated and it will more looks like a traditional finances, or it will have...
That's great. That you touched on that before. So that's the challenge. Remember why I went into this area of law? I went into this area of law because of the ability for crypto and blockchain to reform and improve the application of law. Okay, now we're kind of talking about the reverse. We're talking about law being applied, traditional law being applied to crypto. It kind of loses a little bit of its magic when you do that. The promise of crypto and blockchain was decentralization. No one being in charge.
Nobody care. I think nobody care about decentralization anymore. From the retail perspective, 100%.
Yeah, I think it's a little sad. Take Bitcoin, for example, because I'm sort of the Bitcoin guy. It's supposed to be a peer-to-peer digital cash, right? That's the subtitle of Satoshi's white paper. Yeah. Well, certainly peer-to-peer, but a lot of it's being held on exchanges. Are we using it for cash? You can, but it's rare. Usually no one's doing their transactions in Bitcoin. They might buy real estate in Bitcoin because there's enough. We always talk about how much Bitcoin is in dollars. We never say how much dollars are in Bitcoin. So
I like this. Yeah.
The perception hasn't switched. We were hoping it would. And people say Bitcoin fluctuates. We're like, no, Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. It's the dollar that's fluctuating. Well, I understand that point, but that's not really in real life how people are thinking. So what Bitcoin has become is one of its functions. It's become a store of value. It's become an investment vehicle. And it's become something that the national reserves are going to hold in different institutions. I'm glad it's doing that, but did it really fulfill its promise of becoming a global currency? No. And now we have what I would call the threat of central bank digital currencies. Okay, I'm using the word threat intentionally, where all that idea of decentralization and privacy and self-control and sovereignty and being your own bank it's a complete opposite of that. I hope that our existing industries and processes will benefit from the application of blockchain technology in the ways I described, with the diamonds, the pharmaceuticals, the land, everything else. I hope that real-world asset tokenization will lead to more liquid and effective markets and the ability to hold things in small amounts and open up these markets to everyone else. I hope that the application of law and processes will become a bit more streamlined because of these. And I hope, I'm using that word carefully and intentionally, I hope that DAOs become a stronger thing. Part of the reason, I guess, why I become a tech lawyer in general is I realize there's not just one answer. I always knew this, right? Intellectually, now I really feel it. There's not just one answer. You have to keep on fighting everywhere for growth and for freedom. You can't just go, oh, Bitcoin, oh, blockchain, oh, crypto, we're all free, we're all sovereign. No, it's not that now. In this world of AI and surveillance and everything else, you need to fight hard. And it's funny, I'm saying this in the UAE, but there's actually a lot of freedom here in a way. You need to push hard for freedom and for success. It's not just enough to be free, you need to be successful and free. I think we're gonna get more regulated, but hopefully the UAE and especially VARA will continue with intelligent regulation so that they support the growth of the market and eventually more and more assets move into the crypto economy. Because it can still do a lot of good.
Okay.
What are you thinking? I know you have so many thoughts, I can tell.
I'm thinking that you are super smart talking about all of the things. For so many years you in Dubai, I heard that you host some type of the events here, Tech Tuesdays. It's already 47 or 40,
48 we've done.
48. Oh my God, I have never ever been. I heard about this, but I have never ever been. Can you tell me a little bit more about this?
Just for the people in the audience, I think they should really understand. I really did grow up with a speech impediment. Like, I'm not kidding. I really did grow up with crazy social anxiety. And I've talked about this, and I worked on this very hard. The final catalyst for working on hard was, in order to do this crypto and blockchain revolution, I realized I needed to be on stage and become a good speaker. And so when I came to Dubai, as I mentioned, I was on stage a lot, running all this stuff. What happened after, say, 2 years is I said, let me start organizing some events. So I did some iftars. I did a couple of crypto iftars.
I heard about this.
That was me.
Yeah. Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, and I think you know Slav from 2555?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
It's a supercar club. Okay, so I did some iftars with my friend Robert and Slav. I did them at Raffles. We had like 300 people. I did them at the Grosvenor Buddha Bar, and those were very successful. I also started doing lunches. So for the projects I was working on, our communities, we'd bring them together, and I'd arrange and make happen a lunch at Vanitas, which is a nice restaurant. And about a year ago, or just over a year ago, I said, I want to do it more systematically. And I did a couple of those, and there it was in July. We're here in this crazy weather. My wife is pregnant. And I said, I'm gonna do something completely stupid. I'm gonna start a weekly business and tech and blockchain networking event. I'm not gonna make it Crypto Tuesdays. I'm gonna make it Tech Tuesdays, because as I was saying, my zone of interest has expanded. So we just started it July 2nd of last year. We started at Jador, which is at the top of the Haptor. Then we went to La Cantine, and now we're at Belcanto at the Dubai Opera. And the first one, we had 50 people. It was free. You can imagine the kind of people that come to a free event in summer in Dubai, where, you know, it was an interesting crowd. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. Conceit I always had was I want to have something intellectual. I don't just want a networking event. So we always have speakers. I'm a big fan of TED Talks, the original version. Not you know, they've gone downhill for a variety of reasons, but the original TED Talks were so good. And there's nothing like that in Dubai. Right? There's networking events, there's presentations, but to have TED style plus really good networking, you know, where your brain can be engaged, I was missing that. You know, you can't get that in Europe and you can't get that in New York. We didn't really get it here, at least not in the world I was in. The second hardest thing in life is to start something. The first hardest thing is to keep going.
I like this.
Okay.
Very good quote.
Because, you know, and that's mine, dare I say. Okay. Because anyone can do something once. It's hard to do something once. Most people won't take action. Most people won't do what they say they're going to do. But the people who manage to do something once, they very rarely manage to keep on going. Because they can kind of pull together once, they can make the sandcastle, but to make it stick, to make it turn it into stone, to keep on repeating and be consistent over time. Like, I'm a consistency monster. I say it, I'm gonna do it monster. So every single week, except for New Year's Eve, okay, the day my son was born, okay, he came out of arena. You're beautiful. I love you. I kissed her. I love you. Kiss, kiss. I went to Tech Tuesdays, ran the show, and came back to the hospital. I'm that committed to doing what I say I'm going to do. Obviously, it's going to become better over time. The first pancake is always a mess.
Yeah.
Nice Russian saying, right? You know that saying.
I agree.
You know, all my Slavic friends, you know, say the first pancake is always a mess. But next ones are better. So we keep on improving. Now it's 250 people
every week.
Yeah, very high class people, Very good audience. Very. We charge the guys to get in. The women come in for free. We actively filter. If someone's not the right, there's a nice dress code. People are coming in suits. The women are dressed amazingly, and they love it because they normally don't get a chance to dress nicely in the sort of tech events. Most tech events are just bro fests, where And there's nothing wrong with it, but I wanted to do something different. We have GCC locals there. You know how rare it is for Emirati women to come to an event. We have Emirati women there. It has to be very clean and nice for them to come. But it also has a lot of fun to it. To do an event every week that attracts people, that doesn't get old, that keeps on building its community. I purposely did it every week because it's hard, not because it's easy. Because to make something that's attractive every week would have to be amazing. So like I just said, we had Andy Elliott on stage. I didn't even find him. One of our good people, Goran, Mr. Crypto, found him, brought him in. The community is bringing in resources now. Everyone wants to partner. Everyone wants to contribute. And it's been a fantastic experience. And a lot of money is being made in that room. A lot of business connections. A lot of people are finding their tennis partners in that room. It's like it's whatever you need it to be.
In average, 200 people during the event right now.
250.
250 every week.
Yeah.
They're different or the same?
No, different. The number one reason why Tech Tuesdays is successful is because it's friendly and safe for women. Okay? It is 50% of women. Dare I say, very nice looking women dressed very nicely. Okay? And they're not the usual Dubai stuff. They're quality women. Okay, it is intentionally built to be safe and supportive of women. Okay, my wife is a co-founder also. But think about it, they got a married couple with a 4-month-old baby on stage, and Joseph is there. Okay, it is safe for them, which is not always the case. It is safe and productive for them. That's the number one reason why it's successful. Two reasons why it's successful is we play well with others. You know, I'm a big believer in that karma thing. Like I can do something, a favor for someone, they don't even have to pay me back. I know the universe will pay me back. Now I don't want them to be a jerk. I'm not stupid. Okay, but you know, if someone in college needs help with introduction, fine. Okay, if someone wants a business introduction, fine. I don't care. You know, if it's some multi-million-dollar deal, I'm watching to see if they keep me in mind, but I'm not like super strict because I know the universe will pay back. What we do is we collaborate with other events and other series, and it's been great. So for example, Michael Turpin and Brock Pierce from EOS and beyond, they have their Bid Angels events. Well, I'm the chapter leader for Bid Angels Dubai. We did a joint event during Token 2049. So imagine the whole Brock Pierce, Michael Turpin crowd comes and joins our crowd. And they're at our event. Now, Michael Turpin and Brock Pierce fly off to the next thing because they're busy. But now that crowd knows about us and they come back.
And they share word of mouth and I get it.
Yeah, and we have good photos. They tag us on Instagram and it spreads. And everyone sees how people are.
What is the main information about the product? In Instagram?
I'll put you in the Telegram group. So Instagram, Instagram's the front end. Our Instagram is light. The real action happens in the Telegram. And then we use Luma to invite people.
Oh, really? This is very popular online calls.
Yeah. So it's
it's offline.
No, Tech Tuesdays is in person.
In person.
Yeah. So it's
in person here in Dubai.
At Belcanto, at the Dubai Opera.
The location every time is the same.
Yes.
I get it.
And Belcanto is a great partner. They took a little while to get them. They're like, who are you guys? But I kept on showing them videos of the event and they're like, okay, we want you. And the owner's Russian, Alexei, good guy. And so, you know, I was doing my very terrible Russian with him and he said, okay. I was like, no problem. So we started there. We've done about 15 at that location, and it's been fantastic. So female friendly. We play well with others. We platform projects. It's also not one of those things where if you do a deal in the room, you owe us a percentage. Some events try to be like that. I hate that. What makes people come and they're comfortable is they know we're not grabbing. We're not controlling it. It is decentralized. It is Bitcoin. Okay, everyone's free to set up their own node. Everyone's free to do their own transactions. You can leave the network. You can come to the network. You can go fork it. You can do whatever you want. And when you do that, people don't leave. When someone's free to leave, they don't leave, right? It's only when you try to control too much that they have a problem. People are meeting in person. There's no name tags. There's no, hey, Gordon, introduce me to investors. No, you go talk to people. We're building the automation and the AI on the back end because obviously you have to do that. But we're not doing that AI matchmaking thing. I know a lot of people who do that. I have a lot of respect for them. I think there's a place for that. Okay, but that's not us. I want you to grab your drink, see that person, walk up to them and start a conversation. And if you're shy, I put groups together and have them start talking. I walk around the room with the microphone and I have people introduce themselves. Who are you? Where are you from? What are you up to? And I do 10 women first before I do any guys. So all the women who would normally sit back or not being acknowledged or are on the edge, they get platformed first and they love it. They love it. And they tell their girlfriends, you know, this isn't some place where I'm feeling weird, where there's a bunch of bros where they're like, you know, feeling like, you know, what's this girl doing here or woman doing here? They're like, you know, they're getting pushed. There's one lady who was shy to begin with. Now I can't get the microphone away from her. It's really cool.
100% I will come to see how it goes in real life.
It'd be amazing.
Also, I'm staying in Dubai for the 3 years, so it will be great.
Yeah.
So guys, we're done for today. Thanks for watching and thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was great.
Appreciate it.